5 Hostile Origins of Beloved Creative Works. Number 5. Sherlock Holmes' Attempted Murder. If you can only name one 19th century literary character, it's probably Sherlock Holmes. The hugely popular detective wowed audiences with his insane adventures and superhuman powers of deduction. Some have even credited the imaginary investigator with bringing the art of forensics to real-world crime fighters. So what could possibly defeat the greatest detective to ever not live? His own creator, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In an odd turn of events for a massively popular author, Doyle absolutely hated Holmes. In fact, it was that popularity that fueled Doyle's hatred. Desperate for money, a young Doyle wrote fiction to supplement his income, playing with topics like man-eating plants and mummies before finally finding an audience with his detective character, Sherlock Holmes. Despite immediate commercial success, Doyle regarded his work with Holmes as cheap and hacky and preferred instead to work with more historical subjects. The public only wanted Holmes, however, and Doyle found himself growing exhausted by the increasing workload and ever more resentful of the fictitious man whose reputation was overshadowing his own. So Doyle tried to kill Holmes. In the short story The Final Problem, Doyle sent his legendary super sleuth out in style, throwing both him and his nemesis, Professor Moriarty, off a waterfall. Doyle said the decision was an act of self-defense, claiming, "If I had not killed him, he would certainly have killed me." Despite this passionate hatred, however, Doyle eventually gave in and brought Holmes back from his faked death. He continued writing stories that he couldn't stand for the rest of his life. Number 4. Weezer's Diseased Album. During the 1990s, the alternative rock band Weezer was a pretty big deal. Known for being the goofy, upbeat foil to a music scene that was taking itself way too seriously, the band's first album enjoyed no small amount of success. Their second enjoyed the hatred of pretty much everyone. Named Pinkerton, this album was a dramatic 180 from the cheerfulness of the band's previous offering. Written during an emotionally turbulent time in frontman Rivers Cuomo's life, the songs were a painstaking expression of personal turmoil. But the fans had been expecting more of the Weezer they had come to know and couldn't wait to tear Cuomo's heartfelt emotional work to pieces. It was universally despised, prompting a humiliated Cuomo to compare the experience to getting really drunk at a party and spilling your guts in front of everyone and feeling incredibly great and cathartic about it, and then waking up the next morning and realizing what a complete fool you made of yourself. But the hate was short-lived. In the early 2000s, the world came around to Pinkerton's emotive vibe, requesting that the band play songs from the underappreciated album at their live shows. But Cuomo was less than relieved. The band's fickle fan base had left the musician a bit bitter. Pinkerton has since been named Rolling Stone's 16th greatest album of all time. Number 3. Willy Wonka's Less Than Sweet Reception. The 1971 film adaptation of the novel Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has been a favorite among kids everywhere for decades. This is somewhat perplexing given that the tale focuses on the disappearances of several children under extremely suspicious circumstances. But one man wouldn't have had it any other way. In fact, he was absolutely livid that the unsettling film version actually toned down a lot of the source material's sinister shenanigans. It wasn't anyone too important, though, just author Roald Dahl. Yes, beloved children's book author Dahl was furious with pretty much every aspect of his novel's move to the silver screen. From the decision to cast Gene Wilder as the titular Candyman to the alteration of the title to the addition of musical numbers, Dahl had no love whatsoever for the production. In general, he felt that the film, which, again, follows an intensely creepy chocolatier who casually brushes off horrific accidents involving children, tried too hard to be kid-friendly. In fact, Dahl was so enraged at the lightening up of his work that he very nearly campaigned against the film in magazines and on TV. He eventually calmed down, but his faith in the film industry remained forever shattered. Number 2. Lolita's fiery fiasco. Vladimir Nabokov's 1955 novel Lolita is regarded as one of the greatest literary works of the 20th century. But considering that it's the tale of a love affair between a middle-aged man and the 12-year-old Lolita, one has to wonder exactly who decides things like that. Regardless, the world of literature nearly lost out on this masterpiece due to the violent mood swings of its creator. One evening in the 1950s, Nabokov abruptly decided that the manuscript he had been laboring over for years needed to be destroyed. Maybe it didn't live up to his expectations. Maybe he was afraid for his reputation. Maybe he just wanted to remain safely off any government watch lists. Whatever the reason, he scooped up the pages, took them to his backyard, and struck a match. This love-hate relationship with his work was nothing new, though, and his wife, Vera, had saved more than one of his manuscripts from similar funeral pyres. Lolita was no different. She rushed to the rescue and pulled the majority of the pages from the flames. Nabokov eventually finished this controversial work, allowing the world to share his conflicted opinion of it. Number 1. The Who's Pinball Nightmare. Have you ever done something you completely disapprove of to earn the approval of someone else? If so, I'm betting that it left you feeling pretty terrible. Almost physically dirty, like you need a shower. Now imagine the entire world demanding you relive those feelings again and again for the rest of your life. Welcome to Pete Townshend's world. Townshend, songwriter and lead guitarist for The Who, found himself in a pretty grim situation when composing the rock opera Tommy. Things were going down the tubes, and the success of the project began to depend more and more on a good review from influential music journalist Nick Cohn. Cohn's initial reaction to the album was lukewarm at best, but the quick-thinking Townshend devised a plan to salvage the review. Knowing Cohn was a huge fan of pinball, Townshend hinted around at a pinball-themed song he'd been considering. Cohn immediately called the project a masterpiece. The only problem was, no such song existed. Townshend had to sloppily cobble together whatever awkward lyrics came to mind to produce Pinball Wizard for the critic. He later referred to the song as awful, the most clumsy piece of writing I've ever done. He was sure the song would flop, but much to his surprise, it became one of the band's biggest hits. Unfortunately, this meant that for the rest of his career, he would be constantly reminded of the terrible song he wrote when he traded his integrity for money. I'm not sure they make soap strong enough to wash that off.